All right, my friends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to keep this going. Next up, I get to bring on the CEO of InMed Pharmaceuticals. That's Eric Adams. Can we bring him over, please? That ticker is INM on the NASDAQ. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to let you get right into it. We'll bring your presentation up and take it away, sir.
Great. Well, thanks so much for having me today, and appreciate everyone taking time to listen to the presentation. What I'd like to do is just give you an introduction to the company and an update as to where we are with our various programs. By way of introduction, of course, we're listed on the NASDAQ under the symbol INM. As such, we may be using forward-looking statements in this presentation, so it's important that everyone take a moment to read through the forward-looking statement disclaimer here. So InMed is a pharmaceutical company, and we happen to be working in the space of cannabinoid medicine. So we don't have any relationship with the plant itself. We don't use anything that is derived from the plant, nor do we grow any plants. But what we do is we focus on the class of compounds called cannabinoids, and in particular rare cannabinoids that we think may hold significant therapeutic potential in treating different diseases. There's really a couple different arms to the company. One is our IntegraSyn manufacturing system that we've developed. We did this because accessing rare cannabinoids is expensive, and we wanted to come up with a less expensive way of doing that. So this is a system that makes bioidentical, economical, and pharmaceutical-grade cannabinoids, rare cannabinoids, to treat different diseases. We are the world leader in the clinical development of cannabinol, or CBN. We are looking at that to treat two different types of diseases, one in skin diseases and the other in the eye, and I'll give you more information on that. So that's kind of the science behind the company, and then the rationale for what we're doing. Most people have heard of the major cannabinoids, which include THC and CBD. They're called major cannabinoids because they exist in really high quantities in the plant, and they're very easy to extract, and you can do so very economically. So those have been researched extensively just because people could get their hands on it for the last 30, 40 years. So there's thousands of publications on what these two do in the human body. What we're doing is focusing on these other, now it's 140 different rare cannabinoids that exist in very, very low quantities in the plant. We don't think all 140 are going to have important therapeutic benefits, but I think there's a handful that will. And right now we're focused on one of them called CBN. So the problem with this is, how do you access these cannabinoids? As I said, they're in very, very low quantities, and it's not economical to try and extract them. Extraction is a technology that's been around since the 1800s. It works very well for those major cannabinoids, but not so much for the other ones. And so you have to turn to more modern manufacturing techniques, such as chemical synthesis and biosynthesis. And both of these are used extensively in the health and wellness space. They're used extensively in the pharmaceutical space. And each one has its own benefits and its own drawbacks. It's really kind of a field where no one process or approach is sufficient for all the different cannabinoids, because they vary significantly in structure. So really it's important to understand which one you want to make, and then kind of pick which approach you want to pursue. Originally, we were focused on bacterial biosynthesis, making the cannabinoid from A to Z within this single one-step process where you genetically modify microbes. But it had its limitations, and so we wanted to come up with a way to work around that. What we developed is an enzymatic approach called IntegraSyn. And this is kind of the next generation approach to manufacturing pharmaceutical-grade cannabinoids. So we still use a biosynthesis process early on, but what we're doing, instead of making the full cannabinoid, which is difficult, your yields can be limited just because you're asking these microbes to do so much work. Instead of making a whole molecule, we're making just one enzyme, which is an easy one-step kind of process for these microbes. This enzyme is proprietary. It's very, very powerful. It has the ability to drive really high cannabinoid yields when you use it in the right systems. And so we take this from biosynthesis and we put it into more of a chemical reaction. It's called Enzymatic Biotransformation, where you put in some precursors that are inexpensive, some other starting materials, and the enzyme reacts to create the cannabinoid of choice. You then go through a couple of steps of purification, and you end up with your commercially viable cannabinoid. And we announced earlier this year that we reached a very high yield. So we can get 5 grams for every liter that we have in the reaction vessel. That is, far exceeds anything else that's been reported. Just by way of an example, most people are struggling or targeting to get to 1 gram per liter with different systems. We're starting out, we're at 5 grams per liter, and now we'll be scaling this up to larger and larger vessels. So what we've enabled here is really a cost-effective solution for rare cannabinoid production, and in particular, pharmaceutical-grade rare cannabinoids. I'm going to move on and talk about our drug development program. So as I mentioned, we're the world leader in the clinical development of cannabinol, or CBN. We've been investigating this in dermatology and ocular diseases, and we've now just launched our first phase 2 clinical study looking at CBN as a topical cream to treat skin disease. We've invested, years to study this molecule. We've conducted over 30 preclinical pharmacology and toxicology studies, and we've been able to file a number of patents around what we've learned. The first, the first disease that we're looking at is epidermolysis bullosa. This is a devastating, rare genetic skin condition that is characterized by fragile skin, and the skin can blister or tear very easily. It really has to do with the integrity of the skin. There's about 200 different genetic mutations that fall underneath this term, epidermolysis bullosa. As you see here, the child that has this disease has a very severe form of it. We're looking at all patients, in particular for symptomatic relief, but we're also looking at a subset of patients where we think there may be a disease-modifying effect of using CBN. Total patient population in the U.S. is anywhere from 12.5 to 25,000, depending on which reference you use. Globally, it's maybe double or triple that number. So it's a small disease, but a very, very high unmet medical need. And there's nothing specifically approved for this therapy or for this disease. But there are a number of people who are looking at bringing therapies to treat them. So as I mentioned, we're looking at 2 things. In the short term, and in a clinical trial that has a short-term endpoint, we can look at symptomatic relief. And this includes things such as pain, itch, which is very severe in these patients, chronic inflammation, and wound healing. And so what we're doing in our phase 2 is trying to suss out which one of these criteria we can actually impact meaningfully, and then that'll help inform us as we go forward with our phase 3 studies. As I mentioned, we'd completed some phase 1 studies. These were in normal individuals, non-disease individuals, looking at intact skin and as well as epidermal wounds, so kind of small blisters that we made on these patients, treating them with this therapy and seeing if it was safe and well tolerated, which it was. There was nothing untoward or anything that gave us great concern. So that's enabled us now to move into our phase 2 trial. The study initiation began just in late September, and you can see here where we are, where we have clinical trial sites. So 7 countries right now. We may expand that, but the goal here is to enroll our patients over the course of the next year and have a readout in about a year's time. So very excited to be moving into EB patients with this product. I'm going to turn now to glaucoma and ocular diseases, which is very interesting, and I think most people have probably heard of this disease. 76 million people worldwide. So, as compared to the EB, this is kind of the big show, if you will. So glaucoma is caused or characterized by the buildup of fluid in the front of the eye due to poor drainage, and that exerts pressure across into the back of the eye. So it can be a painful condition, but the real damage is from the pressure, where it pushes on these cells at the back of the eye that give us vision. These are neurons, retinal neural cells, and they give us vision. Over time, if this pressure remains, you go blind, and that's irreversible. So we kind of looked at 2 aspects of using cannabinoids here. The first one is, can we reduce the fluid buildup? And that's how most products on the market work today, is to reduce this fluid. Turns out that a few of the cannabinoids can do that very well. But we also wanted to look at whether CBN, or I'm sorry, whether a cannabinoid can help preserve the cells at the back of the eye that give us vision. And it turns out that CBN outperformed everything that we looked at, including CBD and THC and several other cannabinoids. Excuse me. So, the data was very compelling. There was really no decision as to which one we wanted to move forward with. It was very clear that CBN was far and away the best cannabinoid of choice. So this is how we're moving forward. We're still in preclinical testing. Part of what we had to do is find a way to deliver the CBN into the eye. So you need some kind of delivery technology. And in our case, we tested several. We ended up choosing and licensing a product called MyDrops for a company called ICRO. And you can see here, just going from the front of the eye to the back of the eye, how the drug penetrated. So we got very high penetration and drug concentration in the front of the eye, which is important for the drainage of the fluid buildup. But we also got a very high concentration at the back of the eye, which is where we want to have an effect of neural protection for these cells at the back of the eye. So we're very excited about this. We're set to publish the data from these early studies in a peer-reviewed journal. And I think people will be pretty impressed with the effect that CBN has in these various models. So where are we with these two programs? So this is just an update through the end of the year here. You can see that on the EB side, the INM 755 program, we've hit all of our goals for this year. The last one there, we're also looking at potentially treating other diseases with the same product. So now that we've established safety and tolerability in our phase 1 trials, we can start to look at other applications outside of EB where it may have an important effect. And we're doing that. We're going back and looking at our earlier preclinical data to see if there's other interactions with different receptors in the body where there may be a meaningful impact, in particular in the skin. And we're also talking with, excuse me, several key opinion leaders who are helping to guide us and kind of sift through the data and find ways to advance this potentially into other categories in dermatology. On the 088 program in glaucoma, you can see that we've done a lot of work in terms of scaling up the drug product, but we still have to conduct some more dose ranging studies and toxicology studies prior to entering human clinical trials. So sometime at the end of next year, 2022, we will be filing an IND, investigational new drug application, with the FDA seeking permission to enter human clinical trials. So we still have our work cut out for us, but we're making really strong progress there. So we've talked about and we've announced that we signed a letter of intent to acquire BayMedica. I thought it'd be worth talking a little bit about what this company and this acquisition means to InMed. So on the left-hand side, you can see, the story I just told you, a pharmaceutical company. We have, longer timelines to revenues just because we have to go through the clinical trial process. So it requires significant investment. It requires patience and time to achieve these meaningful milestones. On the other side, BayMedica is a leading manufacturer of rare cannabinoids, and they supply their materials in bulk to the consumer health and wellness space. So it's a B2B business model where they are providing other manufacturers with raw materials to put into their formulations, be it gummies or capsules or what have you. They provide the rare cannabinoids as a raw material. We think it's a really attractive business. We think it's growing very quickly, this health and wellness market for rare cannabinoids. And BayMedica has demonstrated their ability to step into the space to scale up to commercial scale the manufacturing of rare cannabinoids and commercialize those. So they have established a revenue base, is growing attractively, and we think over the coming 6 to 12 months, we'll be able to launch several new rare cannabinoids into this space. So it's a balancing act here between the long-term, very high revenue potential on the pharmaceutical side and the shorter-term, very attractive revenue stream from the BayMedica health and wellness side. Why is the acquisition transformational? It creates kind of a one-stop shop go-to for rare cannabinoid manufacturing. We have a variety of technologies that we're combining in the two companies, and we think that we have the capacity and the ability to manufacture a broad range of rare cannabinoids, be it for pharmaceutical or for the health and wellness space. I talked about the revenues and the commercial opportunities that we are facing there, and we're very excited to go out and realize those. It also expands our pharmaceutical opportunities. So what BayMedica has done is they've taken the naturally occurring cannabinoids and they've attached different chemical groups to them to facilitate a better physiological outcome, to improve potentially the safety of the products, or other things that may lead to, for instance, better administration. And they've patented a very large number of these, hundreds, and it may turn out to be thousands. So what that does is it gives InMed kind of this treasure chest that we can now dig through and find the real gems of which cannabinoid analogs may be interesting for pharmaceutical drug development, and something that we hope we can then take and partner with larger companies who are interested in compounds of this nature. And all of these new molecules are patented, so we won't have any competition from that perspective, or at least the patent's been filed. So it kind of is a more traditional pharmaceutical model where people like to work with drugs that they own outright. We're very excited about that. In terms of the manufacturing expertise, you can see here that our IntegraSyn system, which we think is really a strong player for the pharmaceutical drug development or manufacturing, is what we're bringing to the mix. BayMedica has extensive chemical synthesis and biosynthesis know-how. They can use either one of these, and it goes back to what I said earlier about there's no one approach to make all cannabinoids. Really, you have to understand which chemical structure you want, how much of it you want. Do you want a couple of kilograms or do you want tons? And what quality do you want it at? The pharmaceutical quality is vastly different from the food quality that would be used in the health and wellness space or the over-the-counter space. So once you know those three things, which one, how much, and what quality, you can really pick and choose which of these approaches is going to be best to suit your needs. And we have now, we're looking to internalize all of this and have the manufacturing know-how to pursue any one. I talked a little bit about the fact that they are generating revenues right now. You can see the first product is CBC, and they are the global leader in large batch supply, making 200 kilogram batches, but they can easily scale that up to tons. CBC is a non-intoxicating cannabinoid that is not scheduled by the DNA, and I think going forward that's going to be an important part of the story as well. And as I said, they focus on commercializing this to the health and wellness sector. So they've proven that they've done it. They've gotten their company from 0 to 1. As everyone knows, that's the biggest step, and now we want to take it beyond that as quickly as possible. If you look at the rare cannabinoid capabilities, they have CBC right now. They have several others in scale-up and pre-launch. So those are the ones that we'll be focusing on in the next couple of quarters. And then beyond that, there's several more rare cannabinoids that we think may hold some important commercial potential. From a patent perspective, the combined company will have 12 patent families, 7 in manufacturing and 5 in product and formulations. So these are not issued patents; they're all filed, of course. But we are pursuing those, and we believe they will be very strong when they are issued. If you look at the two teams, on the left-hand side, you have the InMed team that has extensive pharmaceutical and biotech experience, drug development primarily, with a little bit of manufacturing with Mike. I should say a lot. He's got a lot of experience in chemistry, manufacturing, and controls. But then the BayMedica team brings extensive R&D and commercial scale-up of manufacturing. So it's a very strong combined management team that we think is going to be able to move some of these technologies forward very quickly. Quick financial snapshot. As reported at June 30th, 2021, we had $7.4 million US in the bank. That does not include $11 million that we netted from a private placement that occurred a few days later. So as at July 2nd, we had essentially 18 plus million in the bank. So where is this going? We think that we have an excellent opportunity with the combined companies to accelerate the revenue growth and launch new cannabinoids into the consumer health and wellness space. We think that in addition to moving forward with InMed's current drug development programs, we have the opportunity to expand into other pharmaceutical opportunities by assessing the library that BayMedica brings into the family. And over time, I think we're very well positioned, and we have a lot of solid foundation in place to continue to enhance long-term shareholder value. That's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. And if listening, if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to Colin Clancy, who's our Senior Director of Investor Relations.
Eric, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. Thanks to Colin, a great guy and a wonderful person to work with. We really love what's going on with InMed. INM, again, is the ticker there. So Eric, keep up the good work, man.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.